On here, Dominic Vogel, guys, this guy is a rock star. He helps manufacturing and B2B companies avoid millions, like millions of dollars of cybersecurity losses. And I wanted to bring him on today to just share just a handful of things that companies need when to avoid some of the cybersecurity issues that they're having and it's costing all this money and lack of trust and all that type of stuff. So welcome on, Dominic.
Hey, Vanessa, I'm really glad to be chatting about this. I mean, as you know, I really believe that cyber risk is one of the most pressing risks facing organizations today, especially small and mid-sized organizations. Again, unlike big enterprise, which has been worried about cybersecurity for, let's say, 25 plus years, it's only been really the past 5-ish years or so that we've been seeing smaller companies be in the crosshairs, and stats are showing that, and people always get their minds are blown like telling this, that the majority of cyber attacks globally are not focused on Fortune 500 companies. The majority of cyber attacks are focused on small and mid-sized organizations.
Why is
So
that?
one of the things that, well, it's the nature of how cyber attacks are being carried out, especially with the advent of AI. It's allowed for the sheer volume of attacks to be able to be again, run at levels of automation that we've not seen at any point in sort of in this digital era of the past 30 years or so that we've been living in, as well as, especially during the pandemic, more and more small organizations fully came online. They had more systems available online for people remote work and what have you. And the thing is, they rushed to get that stuff out. And most of these small organizations, they don't have dedicated security professionals like the Fortune 500 companies do to protect those systems and to protect that data. And it's the thing I always tell people is that it's not about the size of your organization. Because I'll say there's a lot of, I refer to cyber mythology that used to be true. And that used to be, hey, we're a small company, no one's going to come after us. That used to be true circa, I'll say 2003. Or we don't have anything of value. We don't have any personal information, right? Attackers aren't going to come after us. Both of those myths, like I said, used to be true circa early 2000. Like this is 2026, and that's not true anymore, right? And the reason is that, first of all, when it's around data, it's not about whether something is sensitive or not. You have data that's important to you as an organization. Every company in this day and age lives online. Right. So your data, your systems, you may think it's not valuable to anyone outside, but guess what? It's valuable to you. It's valuable to your organization. And cyber attackers know that because they know if they get access to your systems and you're unable to fulfill your mission as a company, eventually you're going to say, oh man, we've been down for 6 hours a day, 2 days. Like how long can your small or mid-sized business go without its key systems or key data? Most of them can't go more than 72 hours, right? And then they're like, okay, we'll pay the ransom, right? We just need our systems back. So that myth of, oh, it's not important, it's important to you. And cyber attackers recognize that. So that's that myth busted number one. And the second one is we're too small, right? No one's gonna come after us, right? Again, that used to be true, but the way that cyber attacks are right now is that they're extremely automated. Right? Before, attackers used to have to plan out, okay, we're going to go after company A so we can get to company B or what have you. Now there's so much automation, there's so much digital, from a digital perspective, everyone is equal from that perspective, right? And especially with how integrated this global supply chain is that, hey, you know what? If we want to get to big company B, we're going to compromise, their small HVAC provider or vendor. They don't take security to the same extent, right? Someone's knocking at the door. Sorry, I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. It's just like pause. So when we're talking about organizations and if they're too small, right? Yeah, the CEO of business owner saying, hey, we're too small to be hacked. And we live in an age where the size of your company doesn't matter. From a digital perspective, back to what I was mentioning earlier, you have data. Every organization is data driven, from the biggest organization to the smallest organization. And in order to further infiltrate the global supply chain, cyber attackers are going after the smaller companies. So if they can't get into big company A, they're going to compromise, small company C, get into their network, and then through that, be able to access the larger companies. And we're seeing that, right? Which sort of brings me to my next point around I'll say the business reasons of why you should care about cybersecurity. Right? So if those myths, if you still believe those myths, there's three key reasons why I believe from a business perspective, you need to focus on cybersecurity. The first one is, especially if you're a B2B organization, from a global supply chain perspective, organizations are clamping down on supply chain risk. So if you as a B2B organization sell to Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, any of the big players, they're clamping down on supply chain risk. If you cannot prove to them that you are taking security seriously, and here's how we deal with cybersecurity, you are at a source of competitive disadvantage. This is one of my favorite stories to share. There was a Thai food company that reached out to me. They said, hey, we have a $5 million contract that we've had for 25 years with Walmart. We sell Thai food to them. I was like, that's a ton of Thai food. I was trying to picture what I'm wearing. But they said that Walmart is clamping down on supply chain risk. They have told us, even though we're not touching any of their systems, we have to prove a certain level of security. We never invest in cybersecurity at this organization, right? We can't lose this contract. This contract represents something like 2/3 of our annual revenue. Oh. And I said, well, great. So now we can tie security here. It isn't just about, hey, attackers or what have you. There's clear business reasons to invest in security. So in order to protect that $5 million line of revenue, I said, okay, well, here's my fees, and here's some of the technology that you need to invest in. All in all, I think it ended up being maybe about $250K. $250K investment to continue to preserve $5 million line of revenue. That's a pretty damn good deal. Right?
And it's a one time too, isn't it? It's not like it's ongoing, right?
For sure. Exactly. Right. And, or the ongoing cost is substantially lower, right? That's just to get them up to a certain space, and it's that type of mentality, like I said, that organizations need to understand. And like I said, especially for those B2B organizations, manufacturing organizations, if you are playing a global ecosystem where there's bigger fish, they are clamping down on supply chain risk, and cyber risk is very much front and center there. And if you can't prove easily and quickly that you're meeting certain security requirements, you lose competitive differentiation, you lose the ability to be in that circle, and your competitors end up winning, and that ends up being game over for your business, right? So that, to me, like I said, is where I always point out. If you're not worried about attackers or threats or anything, that is a clear and present business reason to invest. And the second business reason is around insurance. Most organizations that I talk to, they'll say, "Oh, we're not worried about cybersecurity. We have cyber insurance." Right. And it's, well, not quite it's not like Monopoly. Here's your get out of jail card, right? Right. And what so many businesses don't understand is that unless you're meeting certain requirements, that cyber insurance can be null and void when you need it. So I had this organization reach out to me, say, hey, you know what, we're in the middle of a situation right now. We've been paying for cyber insurance for like 8 or 9 years. And we had an incident, cyber incident, and we reached out to them so we could file a claim. They denied the claim. Why did they deny the claim? I asked. And they said, well, they came in and wanted to look at our security environment, and they saw that we weren't meeting certain security requirements. And we could go into details about what those are, but they weren't meeting those again, fairly straightforward requirements. And they're like, yeah, we are now on the hook to somehow figure out how to deal with this, right? So one of the things that I'm telling a lot of business owners and executives is, look, most businesses have been paying into cyber insurance for years. That money is going to be, is there. It's an important risk management tool, don't get me wrong, but you're throwing away money if you're not putting in the, making sure they're meeting certain requirements, right? It's just like having fire insurance at your home. Just because you have fire insurance at your home doesn't mean that you're walking around lighting matches. You're like, yeah, it's okay, the insurance thing, right?
You have met my boys, no.
Yeah, right. Like it's 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 that notion that you need to understand that if you're getting that coverage, there's certain things that you need to make sure that you're meeting. It's like I said, it's not a get out of jail card. So from another investment perspective, if you've paid 100K into cyber insurance over the past decade, if you want that money to be there when you need it, you need to, again, maybe make a $10,000 investment and make sure that you're doing some of those basic security requirements. Which brings me to my last point. What are some of the basic things? I get asked by a lot of business owners and executives. If there's only 3 things that we do, right, what is it that we should be doing from a cybersecurity perspective? So the first thing I always say is understand what are your most critical business processes. It's not even a tech question, right? It's about understanding your question, understanding your business. What is it that makes your business money? And once you know that, identify those processes. Right? Maybe there's 3 critical business processes. Once you've identified those business processes, map that to what are the systems, IT systems, whether it be within your company walls, maybe it's an online tool, maybe it's an AI tool, whatever it is, where is that tool? And once you know what that tool is, map what data does that tool rely on, right? And then from there, who has access to that data? Focusing on that ecosystem, and then building some basic security around that, like making sure that you have good passwords, making sure that you're leveraging what's called multi-factor authentication, right? So username, password, and code that comes to your phone or something. Basic stuff like that. That way you can focus it on the stuff that matters, because there's a ton of other business processes that don't matter, and this might always be my joke. If you're protecting your Miley Cyrus MP3s to the same extent that you're protecting your business crown jewels, you were doing security wrong. Nothing against Miley. I love Miley, but you can't, that is inefficient security, right? So that's why I'll say to the businesses, understand your business, understand your data, understand your systems, and build basic security, like good passwords, multi-factor authentication, making sure they're getting security updates, basic stuff. It's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are really good things to be looking at. And then, are there specific industries that you're seeing now in 2026 that are being attacked more?
Yeah. So it's an interesting game of dominoes that I've referred to it over the past 20 years. I've been able to see it. So like when I started in this profession, the only areas that really cared about were government, healthcare, and financial services.
Makes sense.
Right? And then you started seeing certain sectors becoming more regulated or had more concerns. Where we are right now, and why I've chosen to focus primarily on manufacturing, is that manufacturing is very much right now is one of the most targeted industries or sectors when it comes to cyber attacks. Why? Because is that more and more of these systems, or more of these companies, I should say, they're going through, I'll just call it digital transformation. They're bringing their systems online, right? What used to be offline is now become part of the Internet of Things and being driven by AI and what have you. They're making significant investment. They're coming online. But the thing is, they're bringing these systems online that were never really designed with security in mind. And so now it's the proverbial shooting fish in the barrel for cyber attackers, right? So that's why manufacturing space is very much in the crosshairs. That's why I'm telling organizations in that sector, you need to plan for security. This isn't a bolt-on afterwards. The second you bring your systems online, you're getting you're basically getting shot at from a digital perspective, right? You're in the crosshairs, right? You need to prepare for that, right? You can't just say, okay, we're online, right? As quickly as you do that, you'll be offline, right? So that sector in particular is one that I'm seeing huge I was going to say growth in, but growth and not necessarily in a good sense. Yeah. And another sector where I'm seeing it, and again, it has historically underinvested in cybersecurity, is hospitality. Hotels, tourism locations, ships, or cruise ships, that type of thing. They've all underinvested historically in cybersecurity. And same thing, a lot of them are making investments in coming online or doing more online, leveraging more AI tools, right, for call centers, what have you. And they've not thoroughly invested or properly understood what their cyber risks are. So there's another industry that is very much in the crosshairs right now. So it's sort of the perfect mix for cyber attackers. It's the more of them are coming online, so there's now more targets, and the ones that are coming online are thoroughly underprepared. Like I said, that is the equivalent of shooting fish in the barrel, right? So it's the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. It's rabbit season or duck season, depending on one's preference.
Right. Yeah, it's rabbit season. But I mean, that all makes sense. I mean, I knew some of the manufacturing and stuff because I worked in manufacturing, but the hospitality, I mean, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, right? When you're in it, you don't think about it until like everything is going online. You're booking online, you're servicing people online, I mean, probably even some of the places like any of the delivery services, the meal delivery services, I'm sure are getting attacked too.
Yeah.
Because your information is on there. You have to put an email address, you have to put a phone number, and they have to be legit. You can put whatever name you want, but it's, they have that information. So
absolutely. And like I said, especially like I said, with from a global supply chain perspective, right? There's so many small organizations that they exist because they have one big massive corporate client, one big company that they service. And the thing is, this problem isn't new. There was a watershed moment, it's got to be at least a decade ago, when Target had their massive data breach, right? Mm-hmm. And what people don't often remember or understand about it was that it wasn't Target specifically that got compromised. Mm-hmm. It was a fairly small HVAC vendor, which Target went on to manage the HVAC systems for their stores, that got compromised, right? And through that, Target got compromised. And the thing is that people
HVAC system at a large company.
Well, and what's been super interesting, and the thing that is underreported, I'll say, is that all these years later, Target's fine, right? And this is where one of the great myths to me in cyber risk is that HVAC vendor that Target was a vendor that Target relied on. So Target, like I said, decade plus later, they're thriving, they're doing fine. Mm-hmm. Right? That HVAC vendor no longer exists. That company went under. Right? Target ended that contract. They were done. It was game over for that organization. That's a question I always say to, especially executives in the small and mid-sized business space. I always say, who has the greatest risk around cyber? Is it the big corporate companies, or is it the smaller organizations? And most CEOs, executives, are always saying to me, they're like, well, that's a stupid question. It's the big companies. They have the most money to lose. I would say, well, that's the thing. That's a false front, right? Yes, they may have more to lose, but they have financial war chests to survive, right? If you look at all the big cyber attacks that have made the news over the past decade plus, right? It's always about big companies. Every single one of those companies survived, and they're fine now, right? They may have had some bumps on the stock exchange, but they're all fine now. What is not reported is that for every big data breach that affects a big corporate company, there's about a dozen smaller companies that doesn't make the 6 o'clock news that had a data breach and they went out of business. Cyber risk for small businesses is an existential risk. It is not an existential risk for large organizations, right? And that's the thing that I want executives, especially like I said, the small business to understand, is that this is an existential risk for your organization. Just because it's not reported doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does.
Yeah. It's quick too. It's very quick.
Oh, it's very quick. It's a quick death.
Yes, it's a very quick death. I mean, that's how I want to die. I don't know about you, but like I want my business. I don't want my business to have a quick die, but I want to go quick. I don't want to be like burned to death or something, right? I want to be quick, right? But I mean, it's huge, right? And so, I want people to reach out to you. So like anyone who is watching this or listening to this, guys, I want you to reach out to Dominic. His information is going to be below. I mean, I only bring on people who really know their stuff, who are really good at this, because I want you guys to be better at your organizations. And so all of his information is going to be below. I want you to reach out to him. I'm sure you have some kind of free discovery call where you talk to them or something. So you go through their stuff. As we all do, because he wants to make sure that you guys are a good fit and you're a good fit with them. Everyone's got to be somewhat satisfied there. So I want to say thank you, Dominic, for coming on here and providing some of that information, some of the basic stuff these companies are going to need and these executives can take even to their next company as well.
No, thank you, Vanessa. And for anyone that that reaches out through you, if they just tell me that they came through you, I give them a free hour of my time, and they walk away with at least 3 risks that they can immediately action right away, right, for free, right?
Exactly.
I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the platform. And last thing, like I said, that I want people to understand is that this is this is a risk that's not going away. And I want organizations, I want businesses to treat it as a risk. It's not an IT issue, right? That's my final sort of calling here, or words of wisdom, is that if you treat this as something for your IT guy to treat, you've already lost, right? Treat this as a business risk.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So thank you again for joining.